my list of excuses.
It's a scroll.
My
Are we going to
excuses
see
are
it?
long.
Like, flip it around.
They not like us. The Zone gang. Facts only.
It's my intrusive thoughts. I'm saying, make sure you have your snacks, okay? Have your seatbelt tightened.
I hate you right now.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Elisha here, and welcome back to Match Day 3, as Kaylin calls it, or Episode 3 of Through Ball on the Zone. We're so happy to be here. It's an international break. As always, we talk about all the stories that you care about, that we care about in football. And as always, I am joined by the incredible Kaylin Kai, the incomparable Darian Jenkins. We're here to talk about everything going on in football right now. Club football is kind of slowed down a little bit, taking a backseat. MLS is still here, but it's all about the national teams, Nations League especially, World Cup qualifiers. Let's get into it. This segment, as you know now, is called VAR, where, of course, we review everything from the past week, our favorite stories in football. Kaylin, what was your favorite story from
Well,
the
the
past
one
week?
league that didn't close down because of international break,
Yes.
obviously Major League Soccer. I always look at the narrative of the biggest storylines, but the biggest storyline I think heading into this weekend wouldn't be on anyone's radar. It was the Vancouver Whitecaps taking on the Chicago Fire, two teams that are kind of not the powerhouses, not the LAFC, the LA Galaxies.
Mm-hmm.
It was, though, Berhalter versus Berhalter. It
Love
was
it.
son versus father. Obviously, I'm married to Harrison Heath. His dad was a coach in the league, a professional player for Everton. So I feel that, and I felt like a different energy heading into the game. And we spoke to them on MLS Countdown heading into it, and we were just like, what's the energy like? We were asking Dad. We were like, what's the best thing about your son? What is his greatest attribute in football? He was like, technically, he's so sound. And then we were speaking, because the mom and the sister were there, we're like, who are you cheering for? So it was just a really cool moment in Major League Soccer just to see Greg Berhalter, the former men's national team coach. You guys probably maybe miss him now, seeing a Chicago Fire 3 games undefeated on the road. Just kidding, Poch, I love you. But it was just a really, really cool moment to see father and son. And then the father just put on a masterclass. 3-1 on the road in Vancouver. Yes, Vancouver were missing 4 of their key players. Their captain with Ryan Gauld, who went down with an injury. But those are like those stories where you're like, as a parent, I'm a mom of a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I was at a rec soccer game earlier that morning before that game. And I was sweating. I wasn't shouting. I'm not a shouter. I always put myself on the end. But I'm like,
do you pace up and down the sidelines?
I stay away from the other parents because, sometimes parents get talking and they're like, pass them up. I'm like,
You're
don't
like, I've
know.
done this.
Yeah,
You
I'm like, you don't know. And I don't think a lot of
You don't get it.
I know, and I don't. And hey,
this is my life.
It's no disrespect. I know everyone out there, soccer moms, cheerleading moms. It's hard. It's a tough job.
We need y'all.
But I don't think people know that I used to play. So I'm trying to be incognito of not
You gotta flash, you
force
gotta
them
flash
left,
your little tattoo.
create 2v1s, overloads, underlaps, and
Caitlin, you just gotta flash the Olympic rings.
I'm like this. Hey. No.
Yeah.
I would kick myself out if I did that.
I wonder if the Berhalters were like talking some ish to each other before. Did you get to ask them
They
that?
were. So when we were like, who's the missus cheering for? Who's the daughter cheering for? Greg's like, well, the missus is obviously cheering for me. Like, if players don't get fired, the head coach gets fired. And I was like, that's so true. I've been there, done that. Yeah.
I feel like there has to be a part of them that can't separate, especially for Greg, that he's playing against or he's coaching against his son. Like, because I can imagine it's such a proud moment. Because when I see like LeBron and Bronny being on the same team, and obviously like recently one of the big stories was how Stephen A. Smith got pressed by LeBron on the court for talking about Bronny. So there's a part of him that's mature and professional enough to say, yeah, this is my teammate now, but this is still, this is my baby boy, this is my son. And so there's a part of them that has to feel like, wow, like I want to coach a team that's going to beat my son, but this is still my son. Like, I'm proud.
You do anything for your kids. I'm just going to throw it out there. Like, I go into mama bear mode. Like, if Hayden comes home upset, I'm like, what happened? Who is it? Do you need me to come to school? You good? But yeah, I genuinely could not imagine coaching against my son someday, or my husband coaching against my son someday. I would stay home.
Or like calling a game for your
Never.
And your son's playing in it.
I would say he's the best player on the pitch. He's the next Lionel Messi.
So biased. That's okay.
Nepotism.
All right. Well, on the other side of the world, kicking it off to you, Darian, what's your favorite story from the past week?
There's so many I could pick with UEFA Nations League, but this was the most insane week for me watching this.
Yeah.
I can't even get a tally on how many goals were scored, including all of the penalties, but you had France and Croatia. You had Spain and Netherlands, Portugal, Denmark. I'm missing one. And then we had Germany, Italy, the Italians losing their way, and Germany just being so cheeky coming back. I mean, we saw a repeat of the Trent Alexander-Arnold quick corner kick, and Italy just shut off, and from there it was over. But it was such a fun weekend for those matches, and especially after watching the US and then watching UEFA Nations League, I'm thinking we got our work cut out for us, because I'm going to give your boys Yamin Yamal a shout out. Spain balled out. Spain
it's the Barca. It's the Barca in him.
Nico Williams too. I mean, that team is just so stacked with youth, but I can't wait to get into more of this. There's too many storylines to just cover right now, but I got to give your boy a shout out.
Yeah, and I'll also say real quick too, Europe is making up for the Euros last year, because
yes, agreed.
It was extremely boring. It was so many 1-0s, 0-0s, 1-1s.
We had
I felt like they were trying to do Morse code with the scorelines.
Like we had 5-5s to pens. I mean, Portugal coming back over Denmark.
Olise got a free kick goal too.
Oof, it was clean.
Couldn't even be nonchalant about it.
Do you guys feel that the reason for that, though, is the Euros is a bigger tournament? So, yes, teams give up less goals because they go in with more of a game plan of, we want to win this thing. Not discrediting anything, but I'm just thinking, like, you go into the Euros, it's one of the most exciting tournaments other than the World Cup and the Commonwealth South American World Cup qualifiers tournaments. It is a lot at stake, because the Euros is this almost incredible tournament that everyone wants to win. Yeah. Or maybe I just sound crazy.
No, that's fair. There's more pressure. There's more at stake. That's a hey, hold on. That's a good thing. It's almost like you do this for a living.
Throw it out. Flip it, throw it out.
And speaking of Nations League, we got to talk about the CONCACAF Nations League as well. We had, of course, the elephant in the room, Panama versus the U.S., which we're going to get into a little bit later on for so many different reasons. And obviously, Mexico ended up being the champions. So much happens, and
you're forgetting a team in there. You're forgetting one team. I don't know if you've said them yet.
I was just throwing you the alley.
I'm wearing a Canadian tuxedo.
I was just throwing you the alley. Yeah. Of course,
I'll
Canada.
Get into Canada.
And big shout out to my boy Jonathan David. Saka fet na bule. But yeah, a lot happened in the CONCACAF Nations League, and my personal favorite, which again we're gonna get into, is that celebration during the Panama USA match.
Yeah, that got me.
All right, this segment we like to call Onside or Offside, where I provide a take, some of my opinions. Sometimes it might be something I just found on the internet, and I just feel like you guys need to hear about it. And, of course, my lovely co-host will tell me, am I bugging or am I not? Is it onside or offside? And to get it started, this episode, I believe Thierry Henry is the most influential football legend with the most aura of all times. Onside or offside?
I'm going offside.
Offside.
I'm saying onside.
Onside.
I agree.
Come on now.
I
agree.
Before
offside.
I even jump in, I'm going to let you two give me your takes as to why. Because I think I could name 4 or 5, and it's no disrespect to TT. I think he's absolutely fantastic. You guys are definitely onto something. I'm not disagreeing with that. So please take it away.
Elijah, you go first.
So for me, I think Thierry Henry, for one, let's just, on the aura side of things, I think Thierry Henry has the most aura of any footballer ever. Being influential also adds to that, because there's a generation of players now who are pros who looked up to Thierry because he was the super macho footballer. And, you know, you can argue that that's not always a great thing, but he was, quote unquote, the tough guy, the naturally talented, skillful French player who came to Arsenal and said, oh, Dennis Bergkamp is the big dog here? No. Tell him there's a new pup in the kettle. I'm here to take over. Like, I'm taking over. This is my team now. To have that type of confidence to say that you're going to take the spot of a living legend, take over. Like, that's the guy. That's the careers and the foundation of a lot of careers have been built off of that influence. And for a guy, right, like Cecilio Waterman from Panama to go in a moment so big, in his career, right? You don't get many moments like this. For him to score, to eliminate the U.S. from the Nations League, then to run to Thierry Henry and not celebrate the goal. That wasn't a moment of celebrating with him. He was celebrating him. Imagine having somebody celebrating you during their moment. That's already the influence right there. But then you look at a few days later for Thierry Henry to then go and meet him, right, in the
Exchange jerseys, yeah.
to exchange jerseys. He brought him an Arsenal kick, and you see a softer Thierry Henry. You see a guy who's able to shake a young player's hands who looks up to him, give him a hug. Back in the days, Thierry Henry's doing none of that. Like, you can see the dog in his eyes. Like, you could see the intensity that he carried. But now he's the guy who's able to say, hey, I miss my family. My kids were crying every time I was supposed to leave, so I left the game because of that. He's the guy who's saying, I had to go to therapy. I had to deal with my trauma as a man. So for you to then go from that dog to now the softer OG who's able to balance both, like, yeah, you were inspired by this, but here's who I am now. No player, I don't care what player, and I'm going to let you make your case. I'm going to let you also, you know what I'm saying, tell me what you think. But I feel like no player has had that balance, that dichotomy ever in football, and possibly not even in sports overall.
So you're just saying that one moment.
So I feel like
makes
part of that
the most influential player of all time.
Not just that one moment. I'm just saying that one moment was the personification of what a lot of players feel. So I feel like the growth that he's had mixed with the influence, that's aura.
I'm going to say we can talk about what he did on the pitch endlessly. We all know. When I was growing up, I was gifted FIFA, and Thierry Henry and Bergkamp they were the opening to the FIFA game.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with the way that TT played, followed him the rest of his playing days.
Yeah.
He inspired me so much personally. Also to see another black athlete at that level. So to me, he goes down as a legend. But his playing career, yes, it's what he's done post-playing career for me that is the most impactful. To see a person of color up on a screen, breaking down the game, being vulnerable, a man being vulnerable, which is a huge conversation right now. Being able to share your stories, but then also still influencing the game where he's coaching, he's on TV, he's accessible. I mean, even someone who is his idol being able to run up and celebrate the biggest moment of their career with him to tell him, you're my idol, you're my idol. I do this game because of you.
Before he even said, you're my idol, there was pure fear in Thierry Henry's eyes.
On the whole desk.
I think he thought, what are you going to
do?
That was
fear. The last time I saw that was in Chris Rock's eyes when Will Smith was running up that stage.
And then Will Smith was performing crazy.
But
that should be a whole
I
other
don't
thing.
disagree with anything you're saying. But the question was the most influential player.
I think influential because of his accessibility and visibility right now is incomparable to any other player.
David Beckham, Maradona, Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Zinedine Zidane. I get it because of accessibility. Yes, he's on TV, but I think that moment for sure changed the way of, wow, he's actually, like you said, doesn't have that bite in him that we saw as a player, like we saw in a coach. He's actually just one of us. And the exchange that we saw with that, I think, allows us into the side of athletes that not a lot of people get to see. So a lot of the times where you're like the Luis Suarez, we spoke about it last week on our show, Through Ball, that, you know, the exchange with the jersey with the young girl. These are those athletes. You were an athlete. You get that side of it. You see it inside the locker room. You have a lot of people. You were an athlete as well in your Sunday league with, was it Miss Mary or? But I love that TV allows a side of to let people into our lives or their lives that they might not see that side of it. So I think that is incredible. But I don't think with the question, is he the most I think he's up there for sure. I think he's top 10, 100%. But I don't think he is the most influential person. That was the question. I think that moment, though, showed that athletes are real people at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how much money they make. It doesn't matter how many houses they have, how many cars they drive, how many watches, Rolexes, Pateks that they own. At the end of the day, they grew up loving the same game that we love. They grew up loving the same thing.
He's that guy. He's the most influential. He's that guy.
Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi in the long run might overtake that in terms of influence. I'm speaking of right now in current day because they're still active players.
Less influential. You're saying
prime.
Messi's less influential.
Two professional players that are in the game right now who have started their career, who have watched Thierry Henry as kids and who have been inspired by not just his performance, but his work ethic, his drive. There's a lot of kids who
Messi says that about Thierry Henry.
Yes, and there's a lot of kids who watch Ronaldinho skill compilations on YouTube. Yes, but are they, as an overall player, are they looking at Ronaldinho to the same degree that they're looking at Thierry Henry? They're looking at his skills, but as a competitor, is he having that same impact on them? So that's why for me the influence is just different. Now again, it might be a different conversation when some of those players are retired, and I think
I still think Messi is not retired. I think he has more influence than Thierry Henry. Look at all the leagues he went to. You tuned into every single game Lionel Messi went to. You bought every single jersey that Lionel Messi went to. I'm sure you own an Inter Miami jersey.
I want to do a poll. Please let us know in the comments. Please, everyone, let us know in the comments. Who do you think is Thierry Henry?
TT.
Is Thierry Henry? Am I bugging? Is Thierry Henry the most influential footballer of all time?
Yes.
Let us know. With that being said, next up, in football, confidence is just as important as form. Onside or offside?
Onside.
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 100%.
Okay. Well, just to give some context for the audience watching, there was recently a video came out of from that Pulisic documentary of him talking about the fact that he doesn't feel like he has that same cockiness, that same constant confidence that a lot of the best players in the world has, and that's something
being compared to Zlatan. As well.
And that's something that he's working on. And Thierry Henry, speaking of which, spoke about that and kind of came to his defense a little bit. But what do you guys feel about just Pulisic's confidence overall, but also that statement?
It frustrates me as a former player, and I completely agree with it. When you're confident, like when I look at games and I look at when we were pros or any pros around the world, when you're playing good, the game is 80% confidence. It's 20% talent, because when you're not thinking of, I need to make this pass, I can't screw up, what's the crowd going to say, what's X going to say, what's Instagram going to say about me, you just play a very different ball game. Now, when it comes to Christian Pulisic, I watched him with the U.S. men's national team, and I've been his biggest supporter these last 2 episodes on Through Ball. I've said, he's one of those guys that's first in, last out.
Yeah.
He's, maybe
ultimate pro.
Yeah, ultimate pro. But it's a bullshit excuse at this point now, genuinely, because you're not showing that in Italy. You come to the U.S. men's national team, and he's not shown up. In those 2 matches that I watched, I'm like, I would have taken him off the pitch at 20. He comes off the pitch. He's not a leader. And on the U.S. men's national team, this is one of your biggest struggles, I think. And I'm coming at you as if you guys,
I get
you know
it.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As a Canadian, you guys don't have a leader on that team.
No.
You have 0 leadership on that team. Who would you throw out?
I'd say Tyler Adams. I think it was a shame that Tyler Adams didn't get that. And I totally agree with you. I think we're trying to make Christian Pulisic something he's not.
And he's not.
He's not that type of leader that's going to be...
I don't even
really
think he
audacious
wants to
and
be
bold and talk. It's not his style. He's quiet. If you watch him in interviews, if you watch his documentary, that's very clearly not his personality. And I think the U.S. needs somebody that's vocal, that's not afraid. Even if he's not vocal, Tyler Adams to me gets stuck in the tackles. He's not afraid to level somebody out. And when we both played pro, when you have someone on your team like that, I'm trying to think of it as a destroyer. Why am I
Desiree Scott?
Like a Desiree Scott. That sets the tempo of, we're here to ball. Even if you're better on the ball than I am, say Mexico's dominating us, cool. I'm going to hit you so hard you're not going to know what came to you, and you're going to be scared every time I come at you. We just didn't have it, and Christian's not the guy.
No, and you know what really disappointed me? And it told me everything I need to know. I'm a big believer on body language. I'm a big believer on, you don't have to be vocal. Me and you had this discussion. You don't have to be that vocal communicator. The sub sign went up. Mauricio Pochettino was subbing him, and I think maybe it was Weston McKennie out in that match. He waved his coach off and said, I'm going to take this free kick first.
That.
Yeah.
And Poch went, that to me showed the ultimate disrespect. I'm a competitor. Do you ever want to come off the pitch? Not in 1,000,002 years. You'd play until your legs fell off. Yeah. It's one of those things, and again, you go 60 minutes, and for most people watching, you'd be like, that's a great shift. You ran hard. You did extremely well. As a player getting subbed off at 6, you're like, I had the worst game in the world. Yeah. Why am I getting subbed off at 6?
Absolutely.
Why am I the first sub?
Especially being
but
my
to
captain.
disrespect your coach like that,
your
for
team.
a sub, then to disrespect your team, and then did a close-up, again, because now we work in TV, you see a different side of things. He sits down in between. I think it was Weston McKennie was in the middle. He was on the right, and I forget who was on the left. And he was trying to have a discussion. As a player, again, I don't know what was being said. I don't know what they were discussing. But Weston McKennie wanted no part of that conversation.
Yeah.
He sat back like this. He kind of drank his Gatorade or whatever he was drinking. And you could tell Christian was having like a bitch about why he was pulled off the pitch. If I'm Poch,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
going,
not-
you know
it's
what?
not your
I'd rather,
leader.
I know this sounds bad, I'd rather a Diego Luna that I know is going to run through a brick wall for me
Yep.
than a Christian
With a broken
Pulisic that
nose.
is telling me, I'm not coming off right now. I'm going to take this free kick for the team. By the way, it wasn't even a good free kick.
It wasn't a good free
Do we
kick.
think that's built up frustration from just, again, the overall team's performance, obviously all the chatter with him, and just maybe the realization that also he might not be, like, that realization can be tough for somebody to accept. Also that maybe I'm not what this team ultimately needs me to be.
To me, it is such an honor to wear the badge. You're a Canadian national team. You know when you put the crest on, nothing else matters. To me, watching him get upset that, oh, fans aren't in the stands. Give fans a reason to be in the stands.
Yeah.
The excuse of like LA, whatever. No, if that was a women's national team game, that would be sold out.
My thing for
That,
Christian,
they would be screaming.
you're 100% right. Switch your mindset. You come into the national team. You
Yeah.
do it in Italy. You're a phenomenal player in Italy, but you take a more of a back seat, right? And he's had an unbelievable career thus far in Italy, and he's done extremely well this year. You're not the man that is going to be the leader on the team. That's okay.
Yeah.
That is okay. We're not at, like, yes, America might be asking you for that, but that's a conversation you go to the coach and being like, look, I'm not the leader that you need on this team, so I would love for you to take that pressure off of me. Pochettino is the best manager for someone like a Christian Pulisic to give him that confidence. So I don't know. It's frustrating to watch. Obviously, I am a Canadian. I still want to see the U.S. do well. I have 2 American baby boys, so we're split. We're divided down the middle in our household right now. Well, 3 ways and England. But it's so frustrating to see because the U.S. for so long were the team in CONCACAF that were the best team in CONCACAF. That's not the case anymore. I wouldn't even put them second.
No.
Canada's overtaken them.
100%.
And it's not just because Canada beat them.
Everyone else has more heart.
All right, well, speaking of confidence, this might ruffle some feathers, but one of the most confident players of all times, Cristiano Ronaldo. The take is, right now, as it stands, Portugal plays better when Cristiano Ronaldo is not on the pitch. Onside or offside?
I'll go offside.
I'm going offside as well.
Yeah.
Offside.
You
Why
can't-
would you say
offside.
offside? Because, the fans are talking, and a lot of people are starting
Fans
to
always
realize.
talk.
Fans can talk, whatever.
A lot of people are
It's-
starting to realize that maybe, it might be time to soon hang it up, at least for the Portuguese national team. I mean, we did see, and I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm not saying I'm agreeing. Please, Ronaldo fans,
Okay.
we're here. There's
You
love.
don't wanna
There's
get
neutral
yelled at
love.
in the comments
I
is
don't
what
want some
it
of that.
is.
Sometimes I will smoke. I don't want that type of smoke.
He learned his lesson
Yeah.
from Real Madrid fans earlier. So.
Yeah,
No,
right.
never. I always got smoke from Real Madrid fans.
Somehow
But
I ended up learning from the Barca fans within all that.
That's what we do.
It
what I'm
is.
saying? We teach.
It is what you do, right?
One thing I'll say first, though, is during the 2022 World Cup, this was, for me, the biggest display that maybe it's starting to be. It's the beginning of the end for Ronaldo, scoring just 1 goal throughout the whole tournament. And it really seemed like, at least for the World Cup, that Portugal was playing better without him. But
I'm going to say, I think that Ronaldo is one of those players that you catered to how your team's going to play so that he can be in front of goal and score goals because he's such an efficient finisher. Yes, has the game adapted a bit more? Portugal is a stacked team. But when you need somebody to come in and lead, and what we're talking about with confidence that the U.S. lacks, Ronaldo has enough for everybody
Yes.
on the United States
Yeah.
national team and Portugal to lead a team. So I think you don't leave him off of a roster. He's somebody that can galvanize the entire country, the entire world to support Portugal and lead the team. I think it'd be a mistake to leave him off, but he has come out and said that, hey, if it were better for the team for me to not be playing, to not start, to maybe just be on the sidelines or to not get called in, I'll sign my name because I would die for this crest.
yeah, I would never say leave him off the roster. I think that maybe it might be a good time to start moving away from a centralized system around Ronaldo, because we've seen that fail for a lot of teams too, just relying so much on a tactical plan just based on one player. Because then if
How'd
he's
that
not,
work with
if he's not-
Messi
if he's not,
in 2022?
Messi is different though.
Is he?
It's different. Messi has a different cast. Argentina has it's a completely different team.
You're
than
saying
Ronaldinho. They
Portugal
also
doesn't have a good team?
I'm not saying they don't have a good team. I'm saying that Ronaldo has a different support system than Messi does. The specific cast that Messi has is able to provide them a championship because of what they're able to do. But Portugal doesn't have those same type of players with what Ronaldo is able to provide. Ronaldo is not going to create space. He's not going to be,
Well, he does create space.
He's not
because
he's
players are fixated on him.
He's not as multi-layered right now. Right now in 2024, 2025, as Messi is. So of course, that system works better. Same thing happened with Neymar, right? Neymar, you can tell that centering the game around Neymar for Brazil.
Neymar's been injured for the last 4 years. It's a completely different conversation.
Towards his whole entire career for Brazil, it hasn't worked, right? As soon as Neymar is not on the team anymore, they win a Copa America. So you see it's a different Brazil once you stop trying to make the game so much about the superstars.
I think there's a conversation around it when you do have a player like a Cristiano Ronaldo that does have that aura, that does genuinely play for the crest. Because sometimes you do have those superstars that come into the national team like you do see on the United States where they're like, ugh, got called into the national team. We don't get to go to Dubai for the week. Genuinely, that's how I feel when I watched the U.S. men's national team this past week, is they wanted to be on vacation rather than be on the pitch. Cristiano Ronaldo would die for his country.
Yeah.
So someone like myself, I was in that situation with Christine Sinclair. She was coming to the tail end of her career, and it was, are we better with her on the pitch, or are we better with her off the pitch? And then there's moments, it's different. It's when you go into teams tactically. Okay, is this a fast-paced team? Is this a Route 1 team? Or tactically, do they have a slow back line? Do they play a high back line? Where can we get her in the best situation? So I think it's game by game when you do look at someone like Cristiano Ronaldo, and it's tactics as well. Tactics plays a huge part in it with the manager
for the other
of when
team
you do
as well.
play them.
He's on the picture thinking, we can't let them cross. We can't let them get anything. We need to make sure we follow up. I mean, that's how he's scoring. I think there's good and bad. I totally agree, but it's CR7. The opponent's doing his celebration because he's inspired them so much. I mean, you have to bring him.
Have you done the celebration in your Sunday games?
Well, listen.
Yes.
Answer, yes.
Moving
on.
Somebody scroll on his IG.
Of course I have. At the end of the day, Ronaldo's Ronaldo. He's one of the greatest players of all time. I'll stand by that statement.
He's backtracking,
yes.
Darian.
And it's hard.
At the end of the show, he's going to.
I will always give credit where credit is due, and obviously, still he's performing at a high level for Al Nassr. He's still breaking records.
Take a look over your right shoulder there.
He's one of the goats. He's one of the Me and him understand what I just said. We understand, but. Yeah, and he's still performing at a high level, so it's difficult to argue against, him being an essential part of this Portuguese team. But the conversation is there. People are talking, and obviously, soon enough, he's going to have to retire. The question, I think, now is just when?
Never.
God damn it. Why do they have to do it in sync?
Great minds think alike.
All right, and now it's time for our man of the match moment from the past week, and I'm going to kick it off. And to no surprise to anyone here, my man of the match for this week has to be Lamine Yamal. The kid is incredible. The Barca
I should bring you your flowers. Yes. It was an incroyable.
I like roses, peonies, and daisies too.
All right, I got you.
I'm just saying. And sunflowers. Yeah, so just bring me my flowers. But Lamine Yamal had great performances all throughout the quarterfinals against the Netherlands. And to be honest, it doesn't surprise anyone. He's in form right now. He played amazing throughout the Euros last year. And so it just seems like he's still having fun. He's playing at a high level. He's extremely confident. That seems to be a problem for some people. I mean, Rafael van der Vaart had some problems with him being too cocky, and he voiced that maybe Lamine shouldn't wear his shorts so low. He's a 17-year-old kid. He's at the top of his game. He's arguably one of the greatest players alive right now.
You're being compared to Messi. Like,
you're being compared to Messi. I mean, like, come on now.
I feel like it's one of those players that, like, it's a generational player. You know, when you go back and you're like,
he's
okay,
special.
The Maradonas, the Messis, you can throw Cristiano Ronaldo in there. Zinedine Zidane, you could probably throw in there. TT, we can throw in there. That list is long, but Elijah, no. But I feel like he is one of those players that in 20, 30 years' time, our kids are going to be like, he's their Messi. Yeah. He's their Maradona. And that's, for me, is so exciting because football isn't football without those generational players, without those standalone players where you tune in every week. It doesn't matter what country you're from. It doesn't matter what team you support. You tune in because you're like, I wonder what he's going to do this weekend. I wonder what he's going to do in the Euros. I wonder what he's going to do in a World Cup, which is amazing.
Because I think Spain has 3 players like that. They have Nico Williams, they have Lamine Yamal, and Pedri, to me, are 3 players that like those generationals where we grew up watching them. Like mine's somewhat TT, Marta, who I got the honor to play with professionally at Orlando, but we actually get to see him at 17. Like this kid is only 17. He's doing
Just
stuff
17.
like that.
Yeah. He clapped back at Adrien Rabiot last year in the Euros, clapping back at Van der Vaart now, and posted a picture of him too in his post-match victorious Instagram carousel. And so, yeah, I don't think there's any slowing down for him. I think he's going to keep growing, keep glowing, and yeah, the sky's the limit for the
Star
kid.
boy.
What?
Speaking of sky being the limit, I gotta go over to Germany, and I gotta go over to Kimmich. He's got, what was it, one goal and 4 assists in 2 matches in the UEFA Nations League that booked their ticket into the semifinal, the big win over Italy. I mean, what he is doing not only for country, what he's doing for club with Bayern, it's electric, and it's one of those players, again, that we tune in every single weekend when you're watching, whether it's the Bundesliga or you're watching Germany, that just captivates your eye. And to put Germany, it's always been one of those nations that is those superpowers that, you know, that when you look up and the balls are getting pulled out of, it's the FIFA World Cup, you do not want to see Germany getting pulled out of one of those tubs, you know, when the hand goes around. And yeah, it was such a delight to watch this past week, obviously with it being International Week, and just seeing a player not only be a superstar for his club, but now for his country again. Just incredible.
I think it's a testament to his work ethic. It's extremely difficult for an athlete to be consistent and to then give off, you know, that for them to create that expectation of consistency. I think that there's
in different positions as well.
There's
right
so
back
many
to central.
intangibles. There's so many things that can affect your performance. But
that
time
was Darian
and time
when
again,
she played.
Yeah.
Consistent, could play anywhere on the pitch. Darian's like, this is just like another walk in the park for me.
See, me, I was one of those guys that I had great performances, and then sometimes I'll say,
hair.
you know what? Thank you. But yeah, Mr. Consistency, and that's an extremely difficult thing. And not to always bring it back to Barca players, but I feel like Sergio Busquets is another player who, you know, also there was always that expectation. Yeah, even now with Miami. And yeah, it's not just for Germany, it's also for Bayern. I mean, he's all over the pitch. You could put him in any position. I feel like right now what's left is putting him in goal, and he could possibly do that too. But he's just such a complete player, such a hard worker. He's extreme. He's Mr. Consistency, and I think that, you know, that's something for young players also to aspire to be. You know, just continuously showing up at a high level, and that sets up that expectation of just of quality every single time.
And just to your point, Elijah, I feel like in this day and age now where, you know, the resources of young players, the development of young players, from age 5 to now 22, 23, you're a striker. You're a midfielder, you're a defender. So to be able to play multiple different positions, like you saw a lot of players maybe more so back in the day be able to do, it's not normal and it's not easy, because the amount of money that these clubs are pumping into you to develop you as that striker, as that winger, as that defensive midfielder. So it's incredible, and it's refreshing to see a player like him be able to do multiple different things.
He's a Swiss Army knife.
He is.
With that being said, Darian, who is your man of the match for this week?
My man of the match is Raúl Jiménez. Not only did he ball out this last weekend, making Mexico the Nations League champions.
Yes.
But looking at his, give her claps, snaps, claps. But his story to me is so inspirational. I think he is the definition of resilience. Yeah. Coming from a fractured skull that had him out for 9 months.
Yes.
Struggling to find his form again in the Premier League, to then figuring it out, joining Fulham, breaking records, scoring 57 goals in the Premier League, the only Mexican to do it.
Yeah.
He that is his name now, Raúl Jiménez, 57 goals in the Premier League. And then to go represent your national team, wear the Mexican crest, only have 6 shots in the tournament and score 4 goals. Like everything you touch is gold at that point. And that's a striker's dream. And just to see him in form and confident, and Mexico playing with their hearts on their sleeve and him leading the helm was so good to see.
That was the biggest difference for me when watching this Mexico team in this tournament than what we saw in the 2022 World Cup qualifiers, the CONCACAF World Cup qualifiers, is I felt like the conversation around who's the top nation in CONCACAF right now. And I felt like Mexico, like last few years, have fallen off. I felt like the conversation around Major League Soccer and Liga MX had almost fallen off, that, you know, US is catching up, US is the better teams. And I don't disagree with that narrative still to this day, because we're seeing it in the Leagues Cup now. But Mexico, for me, and it was because of him, every time they stepped on the pitch, tactically, they looked sound. Defensively, offensively, but it was the heart. And that's what the Mexican team always prided themselves on. It was the heart of wearing the crest of your jersey, because all these players, they get paid the big money. They play in Liga MX, they play over in Europe. But it was the free kick against Canada. Raul steps up over it, right-hand side of the 18-yard box, bends it in, and I was like, Mexico's back.
Yep.
Mexico's back. And as a Canadian, I was like, oh no. Because I'm like, that's just not, as a Canadian, that's not what I want to see.
I know, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking, but it's also, it makes CONCACAF exciting again.
Yeah.
Like, there's the storylines again. There's the passion again. It's, you know, Panama in the final against Mexico, Canada, and then
like
the U.S. and Canada in the third, fourth place
very
game.
few people had that on their markers, that was going to be the final. But also Raul to go to the final, and then the last minute.
I did say the game's a little bit tired of the USA-Mexico finals.
You did say this. More flowers. I'll bring you some daisies.
Thank you.
But then to put away the penalty. He can handle pressure so well, and to lead this team like that, I would be fearful to play against Mexico coming up.
Even the conversation that he had after the match, doing the press conference, like, you could just see it coming out of him. He was like, I'm back.
Yeah.
Like, and as like a player where you love to see that Cinderella story, I was like, yeah, you're back. And it was like that full circle moment where the world seems right in this moment, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
Is it fair to say then, maybe, well, of course you'll vouch for Canada too, but that out of all the host countries, that Mexico might be the one to go further in this upcoming World Cup?
I feel like our kind of underdog narrative has to be thrown out the window, because now we have Jesse Marsh. Jesse Marsh came out and said, and he said this, not me, that he would not trade his Canadian men's national team players for the U.S. men's national team. Those are big words from Jesse, because Jesse, the one thing when he was coaching in Europe, he was like, I'm only ever coming back to the U.S. if it's to be the coach of the U.S. men's national team. So to hear them say those words, and I kind of agree with them. If you go through the starting 11 of Canada, I'm not sure who I'm changing out for the U.S. men's national team. And I'm not just saying that because I'm Canadian.
And now let's go around the world. Ready for takeoff?
That was the worst dad joke ever.
I went to pilot school for a little bit, guys, so that's how I know. I'm saying, make sure you have your snacks, okay? Have your seatbelt tightened.
I hate you right now.
But yes, we're going around the world, and obviously every week previewing the Club World Cup, which is a pretty big deal if you don't know right now. Let's talk about some of the teams around the world that are making some headlines. And first and foremost, Juventus just got a new manager. It's a new era for Juventus Football Club. Thiago Motta is now out the door, and Igor Tudor is a new manager for the club. Now, obviously, over the past few years, Juve have had struggles to get back to the top level. They haven't won the Serie A since 2020. Their last few games, they lost 3-0 to Fiorentina, and then the one before that, 4-0 to Atalanta. So they've really been struggling. Yeah, brutal loss. And so now it seems like, they get a fresh start. It's a new era, and potentially a better era for them.
I feel like sometimes when, you do get rid of a manager steps down or walks away, it's almost a shake-up of, okay, you were in the starting 11, you were probably comfortable because you're like, I'm not getting taken off the starting 11. I'm this name, that name, this name. And as those bench players, it's frustrating because you're not getting the results. You're getting thrashed 4 or 5-0. So sometimes it's almost that fresh, clean slate as a player, as a young player, thinking, okay, I got a new opportunity with the manager coming in.
Yeah.
I really agree with you. I think that Juventus has needed this for some time. I mean, when you look at their leading goal scorer, Vlahovic, who's not even playing, who's struggling to get minutes on the team. Yildiz isn't playing, who's I think is one of their best players, one of their most creative players, who's effective at scoring goals. Now you come in, you have a fresh manager, it's a fresh start. There's no sort of ill will in the relationships yet. You have a fresh start to do all of that. So I'm excited for Juventus. I think that this is a really good move for the Club World Cup. You have a fresh manager. You have somebody that's going to make you run, that's going to make you commit and grind in games. And I think that's what Juve has needed, that shakeup It's sad to see it happen right now, but I think it's good for them moving forward.
Yeah, plus their new manager understands the mentality or like the essence of what it's like, to be at Juventus because he's a former player himself for the team. And so, yeah, it can only be a positive thing, but obviously you never know how things are going to fully end up. And maybe some of the players are also afraid that if they were consistent starters, that now their positions might be a little jeopardized.
I also think it's a good time as well. Like, you're kind of towards the end of your season. You can make a good push for it to really show, should I be back here next season? Should I be part of the 11? And then going into a Club World Cup as well. I think it's a great opportunity for these players.
And hey, if I'm not, let me at least show out so that another team will want to pick me up.
There's a team that's almost an unknown. Mainz, they've been unbelievable in the relegation zone back in 2020 or last season, and now third place in the Bundesliga, the second best defensive team in the Bundesliga with incredible attacking talents and incredible attacking teams. That's not easy to do. And they're also being considered and talked about of the comeback kings over in the Bundesliga. Sitting third, I think it's incredible what they've done, the turnaround to be in the relegation zone and then to be in third place at this moment of time is an unbelievable, almost Cinderella story.
I think that's a team that you fear to play as well, because to start from the bottom,
and now we're here.
And now they're here?
Yeah, literally.
That's crazy. Even if you're a big dog like Leverkusen and Bayern Munich, when a team has so much riding behind them, so much momentum as they've had this season,
and they're not scared.
They are not afraid of who you got on your team and your big names. No, we're gritty. We're here to fight. So I love this for them.
Listen, Bundesliga has been having a moment these past few years. A lot of teams are really giving Bayern a run for their money. And I think that now we have to pay attention a lot more to them because they're giving us, it's entertainment. We love rooting for an underdog. We love seeing more than just the generic top teams, the Bayerns and the Dortmunds,
I love that you said that teams are giving Bayern a run for their money, and they're currently sitting top of the table at 62 points, I think.
Well, I feel like just the past few years. I mean, Leverkusen last year.
Got him.
That's true. That is true.
That
is true.
So it just, and Dortmund.
That's management. That was management.
Yeah, and I've tried so many years to root for Dortmund and hopefully see them lift that trophy again after a decade. But at this point,
some of the best fans in the world in Dortmund. I'd love to go to a game. If you guys are tuning in, take us out to a game. I'd love to be in the yellow wall, please.
Shout out to my boy Bart. I love you, Bart. All right, now let's take this flight and land stateside.
Darian, don't feed into this.
As we have a conversation with the one and only manager of Portland Timbers, Phil Nevill. Let's hear what he had to say.
Phil, thanks so much for joining us here on Through Ball. It's an absolute pleasure. Obviously, I cover you weekly in Major League Soccer. Worked for you over in Inter Miami. You were my headache there. I'm just kidding. You were actually like the best manager to work for ever. It's been an impressive season, to say the very least. Obviously, you guys lost Evander in the offseason. Now, FC Cincinnati, man, one of the probably arguably the best 10s last year in 2024. Coming off a massive win against Colorado, 3-0, and now Sunday Night Soccer this coming Sunday, taking on Houston. For yourself as the manager for the Portland Timbers, what are your expectations this season, considering you do have a couple spots potentially that need to be filled?
Yeah, well, I think I thought we had a disappointing season last year. We got into the playing game, and then we obviously had a horrific result against Vancouver. So we worked really hard in the off season. We did lose Evander, which was a lot of creativity and productivity, goals and quality. But we worked really hard at bringing in 4 or 5 new players that are young, that are hungry, that we feel have got massive potential. This club, the owner wants to finish in the playoffs. He wants to be successful and he wants to compete. And I think what you see in the MLS at this moment in time, it's getting harder and harder every single season to compete because of the amount of money that's being invested. And the quality of the teams now is, I think, it's as good as it ever been. I arrived here 3 years ago, and I think the standard in 3 years is almost night and day. So we want to compete. We want to get into that playoffs. We want a home playoff game, and we want to have a really successful season.
You just mentioned that it's getting more and more competitive every single year. Since you've been in the States, like, what growth have you seen in the U.S., in the States, in the league specifically that makes it, that much more competitive now?
Well, I think I've seen an incredible growth. A couple of things. I think tactically and the way that teams are playing now in terms of systems, style of football, I think it's evolving so much. There's been I think when I first arrived 3 years ago, I was one of probably only 4 or 5 coaches in the league that was probably from another country. There was a lot of American-based coaches or coaches that had been here a long time. If you look at, particularly in this off season, the amount of coaches that have come from abroad, and I was talking to my owner the other day about, with the World Cup coming up in 2026, obviously Messi and Alba and Busquets coming, and Wilfried Zaha coming over, and Almiron. I think a lot of people over the world, around the world now, want to work in the MLS, and want to play in the MLS. And I think it's one of the fastest growing leagues in the world. I really believe that. And I think you can tell by the amount of people and players and staff and supporters now. Even the television and media coverage now is incredible. And like I say, I think 3 years ago when I first came, tactically the games weren't as good. The coaches probably didn't have that tactical vision. Now I think they do. And I think it's the place to be, without a shadow of a doubt.
The place to be. I love that. Phil, you came over with Inter Miami, had a successful career there, and then you're coaching here at Portland, and you have a huge rival in Seattle, the two teams that are in the FIFA Club World Cup. What are your expectations for these two teams, and how do you think they're going to fare out?
I think it's going to be really difficult. I'd see big advantage is that we will be in the middle of the season, so our teams will be fresh. It's not the end of a long season like probably European clubs. We'll be fresh going into it. In terms of sort of like the some of the teams in the competition, in terms of what they spend, and obviously what we spend in the MLS, it's going to be very difficult. I think the MLS have obviously supported Seattle and Inter Miami, and rightly so. We want them to go there. We want them to put on a good show. We want them to showcase our league and compete. It's going to be really interesting to see how that Club World Championship works out. I think it's going to be amazing. The best teams from around the world, from every league competing. I think it's going to take off massively, and because it's obviously on our doorstep, I think we're going to be tuned in, we're going to be watching, and I'm going to be supporting the two MLS teams, because there's we've seen it in the Leagues Cup, we see it in the CONCACAF trophies, that you want your league to do well, because what that means is that the benefits from that are everybody benefits from it. So it's going to be difficult, but I actually think our teams will surprise a lot of the teams that they're going to play against.
Phil, I want to have a little bit of fun with you. So looking at this new rule that Major League Soccer has implemented and structured in the off season. So there's now you can buy players from within the league, which had never been done before. And we've saw just, obviously a lot of players moving like Acosta, and the benefit it has. If you put yourself in that situation, you and Merritt sit down, you're at the table, you're talking, who in the league would you love that maybe that in trade league, but taking Messi out of it? You can't buy Messi for your team. That's the only player you can't buy.
Say that.
No, yeah, I can. Who are you buying?
Do you know what? I think if I could pick 3 players, I would go for Busquets in central midfield.
Yeah.
I think he's just incredible. I love the St. Louis keeper, Berkey. I think he's top level keeper. And I would probably go for, if I had enough money in the pot, I would go and get Boanga from LAFC.
Ooh, those are
that's a good
3
shout.
great shouts.
Yeah.
Are you taking yourself out of retirement, or your brother? Who are you taking out of retirement?
I think I'd like to coach that team that them 3 players are in. So I'd take my brother at right back, probably.
One thing I really want to ask, I'm always intrigued by when foreigners come to the States for, either coaching or as players, as to what they have to give up, from their own habits, especially you being from the UK. What did you have to adapt to or adopt for yourself, or as a coach, living in the US
Oh, as a
now?
coach. I was going to say I had to adapt my eating habits, because the food portion sizes in America are incredible. I think I was living on my own the first 3 months, and then my wife came out and she said, "Philip, I think you need to go on a diet." The jeans weren't fitting as well as they used to do. No, on a serious note, I mean, that's true. It was serious. I did eat a lot early on, but I think the travel. When I was in Miami, the travel wasn't too bad. Miami to New York, Boston, DC, etc. wasn't bad. 2-hour flights. the different climates are difficult, I'd say, than the intensity of Florida to, you go to the sort of like the central of the country, it's a little bit cooler. But since I've come to Portland, Portland is like really up in the northwest. We have 2-3 day road trips every away game. The travel is exhausting. When I first came
Yeah.
in, my assistant said, "Look, the travel is really exhausting." And I said, "Oh, we'll be okay," because I'd just obviously been with Miami. And it is. I think traveling from here to Texas is 4 hours. To the East Coast, it's 5-6 hours to Columbus or whatever. So I think the travel is one thing that I'd have to have adapted to, and it takes its toll on your body. It takes its toll on you and sort of like your energy throughout the whole week, and you have to prepare for that.
Well,
Yeah.
Phil, we've seen on your Instagram, you're running, what is it, like 15 kilometers? You were running to the training ground in Miami. So I think you're all right now. Where's your favorite place that to travel here in America? Maybe not. Okay, first let's go stadium. What's your favorite stadium to play in North America? And then what's your favorite city to travel to for like the ambiance, the foods? I know you guys don't get a lot of time because you're flying in and out, but
Yeah,
Say New
I
York.
like
New York is the right answer for everything. It's New York.
I've fallen in love with the smaller cities rather than the New Yorks and the LAs. I've got to
Okay.
say, I love the Cincinnati Stadium. That's my favorite stadium. The TQL.
yep.
That's one of my favorite stadiums. I've got to say, every time I've played there, the atmosphere. It's just a proper atmosphere there. I love. I don't know if you've been to Columbus. There, we stay in a hotel
Yeah.
right on the high
Great
street.
stadium.
There's lots of bars, restaurants,
Hidden
and
gem, Phil, by the way.
Yeah.
An
yeah,
absolute
yeah,
hidden
it's one of
gem.
those where you say to people, "Oh, great, Columbus," and if you speak to all the players, I think that's the one trick because you literally come out your hotel, you go down the high street, you've got every coffee shop, every bar, every restaurant, and it's literally a street. It's not as if you've got to go down like Fifth Avenue or something.
Yeah.
So I'd say that those two places are probably in terms of on my travels. In terms of holiday destinations, I went to Hawaii in the off season,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I've fallen in
Fair.
love with
It's
Hawaii.
amazing.
That was
Fair.
one of the best places I've ever
Great
been to.
shows. I love the Columbus show because when the All Star was there, I was like, I
Yes.
didn't really know what to expect. I'm
Yeah.
like, what? And BWP was like, "Kay, honestly, it's unbelievable. The nightlife's great." I'm like, B, I don't go out. I don't enjoy drinking wine. That's like not what I do. We went there, and I'm on scooters at night. We're like bar hopping on scooters. I was like, this is the best place ever. And then obviously they made the final. I was like, I cannot wait to go back. It was
Yeah.
unbelievable. The people there are amazing as well.
Yeah.
Pleasantly surprised with Columbus.
Yeah, it's a great stadium. Phil, I want to ask, one of my favorite things to ask coaches is the players that they kind of see themselves in, like your era of playing, playing left, on the right, in the middle. Is there anyone in the MLS right now that you're watching that you're like, oh yeah, they've got it. I kind of see myself in that player.
Oof. I mean, there's some really outstanding players. I loved the boy at New York Red Bulls, John Tolkien.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought he just had. I remember we were a rain delay in Miami one game. We're playing against the Red Bulls, and he was in the corridor, and I went outside. I was talking to him, and he was he had such great personality. He was cheeky, cocky, but in a nice, humble way. Benji Kramashi at Inter Miami has got this like class, and he's got this hunger about him that I really love. And one of my favorites, I've got to say, he was in Valencia just before I coached in Valencia. He's called Carlos Gil, and he's just got something like really classy and humble and stuff about him. So I'd say that those three. John Tolkien was the one that every time I see him on the telly with his blonde, red, whatever color highlights, and he's got the Gucci and all this business on, it's. I always think that that's an image, but as a guy, I thought he was just a really, really top, humble young lad, and I'm glad he's got his move to European football now because he's a good young player.
Since we're talking about players that might emulate, similar patterns or behaviors as you, as a former Manchester United player, what do you think about the current state of the club, and how do you see it changing, now with obviously the addition of, the plans for the new stadium? What do you think is needed right now for Manchester United to turn
Well,
over a new
I
leaf?
think it's obviously been tough times, really tough times for everyone as a supporter and as a former player. It's been hard to watch. I think they're down in 15th position or something
Yeah.
like
Yep.
that, which is incredible for a club of Manchester United. But what I would say is that people might not see it at this moment in time, but I actually think there has been change. There's change. The manager, I think, speaks incredibly. He's never wavered from day one in terms of his positivity, his energy. I like his vision. The owner coming out the other day, Jim Ratcliffe, coming out and actually communicating with the fans and the public. I think that was really good, because the previous owners didn't do that, or the part of the owners now, the Glazers, didn't do that. So I think him coming out and communicating and telling people where the club are at, what the plans are. The plans for the new stadium look amazing. That stadium does need modernising. It does need to be brought back to becoming one of the, it's called the Theatre of Dreams, but there's stadiums around the world now that have caught up and maybe overtaken, and there's a lot of history there. So making that stadium, that club, one of the iconic stadiums, just like Real Madrid have, they've redone their stadium, and it's why they are the best. And so I think there's, beneath all the negativity, I think it looks to me as if a real strategy plan in place, and I think they've got the right people in charge. And obviously I'm not there anymore in Manchester, but I watch from afar and hope that the good times, it only takes a couple of signings, it only takes a little bit of good fortune, and then it can turn around so quickly. You look at clubs that have turned around their fortunes from being in this position. It can happen overnight, but I do think it's going to take a little bit of time.
Phil, thank you. Honestly, thank you for joining us. You're always so down to earth. I think my most favorite thing about you, and people don't know this, at Inter Miami, you had a whiteboard in your office where you had like a list of people from the cantina, the lunch lady, the tea lady, and you always put, okay, I need to speak to these 3 people on today just to check in with people. And I think that is honestly one of the most down-to-earth things about you and your family. And not only you work hard on the pitch, but it's the stuff that you do behind the scenes that a lot of people don't get to see. So always delight talking to you, speaking with you, and I wish you the best of luck with the Portland Timbers. Send me a jersey, because they still have been asking for the last 2 seasons. I haven't gotten one.
Me too, please.
Yeah,
I will send. How many do you need?
What's that?
How many jerseys do you need me to send?
We need 5.
5?
Yeah,
okay.
I gotta take care of our producers.
They cost $120.
Perfect.
You know that,
pull it out of what we just paid you.
I'll bring it out on my feet.
Done. Thank you again,
love
Phil.
You
We
all.
appreciate
I love
you
your
so
show.
much.
Take care.
Appreciate it.
And now, as we head towards the end of the show, this is extra time and a bit of the little crumbs that we maybe didn't address during the show that we want to discuss, and bringing it back to the CONCACAF, to the Nations League, but also the CONCACAF teams. I have to do
Oh no, another prop.
I have to do this. Now I had to bring in,
Caleb, I'm scared.
my list of excuses.
It's a scroll.
For
Here, give
for
me the
US,
other half of that.
It's
for
a
the
scroll.
U.S. national team, and because they can never make me hate you, U.S. Okay, I believe in you still. See, I hope is the camera on me? The camera's on me. Okay, listen. Okay, you've fallen down. What does Denzel say? You fall down 7 times, you get back up 8. It's okay. We all have our moments. At the end of the day, the day's gonna end. The Nations League, we couldn't get that, but guess what? We got the World Cup next year. They can never make me hate you. Okay, I understand. The U.S. has had some struggles. The list is long.
Are we going to see
long.
it? Like,
On
flip
your
it
list.
around.
I feel like
We
it's
can't
just-
see.
So like the list, it's abstract. Okay, you can read it if you want.
Yeah,
but
flip it around.
I feel like there's a lot of A's on here.
going on over here.
Okay, so
All right.
did you just go through Twitter and write down?
Long live Mufasa.
Okay, there's just a lot
Ala
of.
Barca.
It's
Brooklyn.
okay.
1804.
It's just random
They
stuff.
not like us. The Zone Gang. Facts only.
It's my intrusive thoughts. Okay, there's just a lot that
put
goes
this
on
here
through
for
my
now.
mind.
Oh,
At the end of the day,
we need to
I'll
hang
use
that up
whatever
somewhere.
to try and motivate the USMNT. Okay, we're here, we're stateside. I live in the US. I don't want to leave. Okay, so I have kind of a responsibility to support them. But at the end of the day, look, we've seen the performance in the Nations League, and I think the positive that we can take away, if there's any, the one positive that I'll take away from the performance in the Nations League is that they're an attacking team. I saw some positivity going forward. I saw a willingness.
Hold on
to
a
attack.
minute. You
I
said
saw a
they're an
willingness. I
attacking
think they're-
team, and
they're an
that is where they were the worst this tournament.
They were the worst at. I like to say it the way my analogy for this is: if you're cooking, eat your food and clean up your plate. They weren't good at cleaning up their plate, at putting the ball in the back of the net.
They
I
weren't
think
good
the
at adding the
willingness-
olive oil to the pan.
The willingness.
Elijah,
Look,
let me help you. Let me help
no,
you.
hold on. Let me cook so I can finish my plate, so I can clean up my plate.
You're burning down the
Look.
house, babes.
during the Panama game, right? They eclipsed Panama by every metric. Now, yes, you can make the argument that they're a way superior team than Panama was, right? We're seeing, why doesn't it matter?
We're didn't score.
They didn't score.
You can have the most. You can have 7%
If y'all gonna
possession.
let me finish my point, I would actually say yes. You got to finish.
You asked me what I said.
That's the whole point of cleaning up your plate. You have to actually score. At the end of the day, if I'm watching a team though, and I could take any sort of hope, if I can have any hope in a team moving forward in another tournament, I want to see a team that's not afraid going forward. That's the one positive that I can say I'll take from the USMNT. And this is the same thing about. Speaking about my club, speaking about Barca, I feel like there's a lot of people who want you to support a team, but then when they don't do well, they expect you to just say, oh no, my team is shit and they're not going to win anything. I live in the United States. I support the USMNT. So if I see a little bit of hope in behavior, in one or two players, in anything at all, I'm going to take that and say, hey, that's okay. They didn't score, yes, right? And they conceded late in the game. At the end of the day, right, Pulisic needs to do better. I think Sargent needs to be better at finishing. Also, he had the chances.
I don't know if he'll be the starting nine.
They had 5 shots on target.
He got his chance.
To Panama's 1, and Panama's went in, and they just weren't clinical enough. At the end of the day, though, I can take the positive of I see a team who actually wants to go forward, and maybe there's the intangibles of football, maybe a superstition from Panama also knocking them out in the Copa America last year. Those things happen. The football is like a religion. There's the superstition. There's the supernatural factors that, sometimes we don't understand. And that confidence might have been knocked out of them from getting eliminated last year. However, though, I'm seeing a team that wants to score. They just are not able to do it. But go ahead.
I want to say with you, I think there's two players to me that we should highlight. Diego Luna and Gio Reyna. Absolutely. I think those are 2 100%. Players that the U.S. is missing that are super creative. And I got to give a shout out to my friend Jalil because he pointed this out. And as soon as Diego Luna got the start, it changed the way the U.S. played. He got a cheeky assist. It was very unselfish. He plays and rides for the crest and for the team.
Absolutely.
They need more of that. If I'm moving forward on Poch, that's a player and that energy that's a big bright spot that this tournament was able to show you. That you need to cater to and try to get more out of your team of a player just like that to then go into the World Cup.
This is why Poch is he's coached at the biggest clubs in the world, is because he gave Diego Luna a chance last camp. The guy broke his nose. He said, you're not subbing me out. I'm going back on the pitch. Then got the assist on the goal with a broken nose, blood pouring down his face. So he said, you know what? I'm going to give you another chance. This is what Poch does. He might not want the best player on the pitch. He wants players that want to play, and he wants players that want to fight, and you saw that from Diego Luna. Great shout.
All right, and I know that was way longer than 30 seconds, but I had to, I'm saying, you get passionate, you have that fire in you, and this is our show, so we make the rules. But with that being said, Kaylin, over to the Canadian national team.
Well, my first bone to pick with you guys is if we take a look behind us, there's not a Canadian jersey here, okay? Eric, pass me the one jersey. I'm going to just exchange this for a quick minute. Hold on a second.
Okay.
I was expecting this to be.
Pass me your mic.
I was expecting this to be a Canadian jersey.
It's the Louis V. So I'm just going to go like this. No disrespect.
That's kind of, how do you say no disrespect?
No disrespect, but
with the ultimate disrespect.
That is lovely. My 6-year-old son is going to absolutely cane me because he loves the U.S. He was rooting against them. But Canada. The narrative around Canada being the underdogs, I'm so sick of it. It's like draining. I'm like, they ain't the underdogs. Like I was tuning in this weekend.
Talent.
They have thank you.
Yeah.
So much talent. You have Jonathan David in Europe. Every team is after him. You have Estacio in the midfield, plays every game for Porto. Kone, that's been fantastic in league. Kyle Larin for Monaco. You have all these top talents now. So there's not an excuse of the underdog story. We're going to go out there and do our best. You qualified for the World Cup in 2022. After 25 years of not qualifying. I'm out of breath because I'm out of shape, but I'm also very passionate about the Canadian team. You got annihilated in the tournament. Let's just be completely honest, but it was a difficult group, okay? So I'm going to give them that. But the excuses now for the underdog story, especially now that you have a top coach in Jesse Marsh. I saw in the tournament that, especially in the last game, they were the better team against the U.S. They were all over them, attacking, putting pressure on, won the battle in the midfield, defensively sound, difficult to break down. And then you have game changers, whereas we didn't have game changers where you can put the team on your back and have a moment of brilliance. We saw that with Jonathan David in the 18-yard box, takes a cheeky little touch, left foot, bends it around the keeper to get the go-ahead goal and win the game. I just think Canada right now is a team under Jesse Marsch that we can transform, and we can be one of those powerhouses, not only in CONCACAF, but maybe one of those unknown here in the Home World Cup in 2026.
Yeah, I love that shout. Do you think a lot of that, most of that credit has to just go to Jesse Marsch? Because these players have been there. Is it the way that he's instilling this new mentality into the team?
Yeah, I think, John Herman did a really good job of bringing in dual citizenship that weren't part of the Canadian team. He did. The only reason why I say this because he did it with our Canadian women's national team. So I saw that single-handedly. Yeah. But Jesse Marsch, he's coached at the top teams in Europe. He's coached professional men's football in Europe. And he's been a player at the highest level, where John Herdman didn't have either of those. John Herdman coached national teams, which is very different to then taking and coaching at maybe like a club level, opposite way. You never coach at the club level to then go to the national team. It's different. So I think both I respect so much. Obviously, John Herman was my coach for years, but what Jesse Marsch, and just speaking to a lot of our guys that I work with that have been coached under him at the New York Red Bulls, he's a player manager, but he's also a tactician, where we all know nowadays it's very hard to balance both. And he's able to do that, where balancing the personalities of these top talents that are getting paid multi-millions of dollars, and then also balancing the emotional side of it with men's players is very difficult, and he does a great job. We're coming back from international break, and we're diving straight back into the action, so don't forget to tune in next week.
And if we missed anything, we need to talk about something else, let us know your thoughts. Talk to us in the comments. Anything negative, point them at this guy to my left, Elijah. Anything positive, keep it in the DAZN chat.
Keep it in the DAZN chat, but also make sure you head over to DAZN.com to watch the FIFA Club World Cup this upcoming summer from June 14th to July 13th for free. Who doesn't like free? Make sure you share this. Make sure you comment. Make sure you let us know your thoughts, what you would like maybe for us to talk about. We'll see you next on another episode of Through Ball. It's been your boy Elisha, Kaylin Kyle, Arian Jenkins. See you on the next one.